You have a daughter, right?
Two.
Two daughters.
9 and 4.
Would you just say whatever you want to your daughters, even if it offended them?
Yeah, my daughter. That's such a funny story because my 4-year-old the other day, she's like, "Daddy, why you always call me Naka?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Naka. You always say Naka." I was like, "Oh." I'd be like, "Baby, that's just how I talk." That's just how I talk.
What would you say if a white person called your daughter that?
They did.
And what happened?
I told my 9-year-old, I said, "The baby's just a word. It only has the power you allow it to give it." I said, "Were you offended?" She said, "No." She said, "I just thought it was stupid." I said, "Well, there you go. She's stupid. So call me stupid. But don't call me a sellout. Don't say I should be canceled. Just call me stupid. I'll take that. I'm stupid."
David, you're stupid, man.
There we go.
You're stupid.
So let's go ahead and get into it. This isn't going to be one of my longer videos. And before I get started, let me just go ahead and preface by saying I don't see anything wrong with anybody having the attempt to be funny, like comedians often do. You should be allowed to say whatever it is that's on your comedic mind. Everybody should be afforded that right and that opportunity. I'm all for it. And so when we have a comedian out here like Mr. David Lucas, and he's telling jokes in front of a majority, predominantly all-white audience, and he's talking about George Floyd. He's making a joke about George Floyd. There's nothing wrong with the attempt to make the joke, but the energy was off. The tonality in which he said it was off. Something was off. And I'm going to go ahead and play a segment of this interview. And after you listen to it, you'll know like I know. You'll know exactly what was off on Mr. David Lucas. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then, of course, I'll come back and chime in.
Like me, don't like me. But I'm going to continue, and hopefully I wake some up.
Well, I don't think that you're qualified to make that statement.
Well, I shouldn't be qualified.
You know why? Because George Floyd's pain ain't your pain.
But
so you
they told me it should be.
So you saying that it don't even compute.
So at what point do I get disqualified to feel empathy for George Floyd? Where did I get disqualified for that?
When you made that statement.
How?
When you said that you would have shot him.
How many have joked about George Floyd? That's not on a public platform.
I don't know who these are. I don't know that. I just don't.
Maybe I just hang around the wrong people.
And I'm gonna tell you, I haven't made it. And I'm not around. Yeah, maybe because I don't hang around people who make jokks about George Floyd.
Me and my black homies.
That was a tragic event.
That
was tragic.
Let me tell you something
and
real.
The same thing that happened to George Floyd could happen to you and all your black homies.
It could.
Yeah.
And so they hit the nail right on the head. Who exactly is he hanging around? And I believe Mr. Lucas is from Georgia. And I know a thing or two about the South. And one thing about the South, there's really not a lot of in between when it comes to Southern cats. They typically fall into one or two categories. And you can already start to tell which category Mr. David Lucas falls into.
You grew up around a bunch of rednecks, you told me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I grew up.
How did that affect your upbringing?
It let me know that America's not as racist as the news tries to portray it, because according to that, I should be dead, right? Or at least something racist should have happened to me, according to what our people put out.
So you grew up around rednecks and you never had a racial encounter, a racist encounter?
Never.
Never?
No, I actually have a great story for you. My family owns property out in Monroe County. I was riding my dirt bike, and it bogged out in a creek, and I couldn't get it out. And do you know what was right over the hill? A Klan rally. No lie.
And did you wander over there?
Well, I was just trying to get my dirt bike out, right. And I was scared as hell because I've only heard that the Klan is here to me. So my heart's beating fast. I'm like 12, 13 years old. And these people helped me get my dirt bike out and told me to get out of here.
Look here, nigga, we gonna help you get that dirt bike, but you don't come around here no damn more. We gonna hang you.
But I lived.
But you were scared to death.
I was scared as hell.
But why were you scared if there was no?
Because that's what was put into me.
And I'm not going to play the interview in its entirety because it's bad. This is probably one of the worst interviews I've seen in a long time when it comes to somebody trying to explain their position. Because this is somebody that probably should have just kept his head down and kept telling jokes in white comedy clubs. I'm not offended by anybody talking about any subject, especially when it comes to a comedian. Comedians should be allowed to say whatever it is that's on their comedic mind. Nothing should be off limits. I'm all for it. I was a huge Paul Mooney fan, still am. I was a huge Patrice O'Neal fan, still am. These are some of the individuals that are probably on my Mount Rushmore of comedians. And these are individuals that said any and everything that came to their mind. Race jokes, whatever.
You've heard a funny I say a couple. Watch my HBO special. I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, Patrice says that if you're having the woman doggy style, and if you
Wrong.
hit her in the head just the right time.
No, it's ejaculate in her eye and kick her in the shin, and she walks around like, arg! It's the angry pirate. That's what she was trying to say.
A violent act of hitting her in the back of her head, her body.
It's called the donkey punch.
Which will then.
Why are you laughing? She's outraged. It's called the donkey punch. It's whole humor that she has no clue what it is.
And the George Floyd joke that was made came across like it was performative. I know all comedians are performing, but he came, and even more specifically, it was performative for his mostly so-called white audience. Now that's the difference. When you're talking about a Dave Chappelle or a Paul Mooney or a Patrice O'Neal, when they did tell a joke, it came from a good place. It wasn't an attempt to try to make an all-white audience laugh. Dave Chappelle is a good example. He had several racial jokes and racial skits on the Chappelle Show, and some might even say that it showed black people somewhat in a negative light. But it was funny. It wasn't trying to make one particular group laugh at the expense of another group. It was just trying to make everybody laugh. And so that's the difference. That's what we're talking about here. Now, this last clip that was played, this was actually towards the end of the interview. And if I would have watched this part first, I probably wouldn't have watched the rest of the interview.
You have a daughter, right?
Two
daughters.
9 and 4.
Would you just say whatever you want to your daughters, even if it offended them?
Yeah, my daughter. That's such a funny story because my 4-year-old the other day, she's like, "Daddy, why you always call me Naka?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Naka. You always say Naka." I was like, "Oh." I'd be like, "Baby, that's just how I talk." That's just how I talk.
What would you say if a white person called your daughter that?
They did.
And what happened?
I told my 9-year-old, I said, "The baby is just a word. It only has the power you allow it to give it." I said, "Were you offended?" She said, "No." She said, "I just thought it was stupid." I said, "Well, there you go. She's stupid. So call me stupid. But don't call me a sellout. Don't say I should be canceled. Just call me stupid. I'll take that. I'm stupid."
Baby, you're stupid, man.
There we go.
You're stupid.
And so there's no reasoning with an individual that will call his own daughter the N-word and say it's no big deal. But then on the other hand, he whines when people call him a sellout. You can't complain and say black people have a victim mentality and people don't want to go to his shows anymore. Now, you got to take all that. And so, like I said, if I would have heard this at the beginning of the video, I probably wouldn't have stomached and sat through the rest of it like I did. And so, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the description. And make sure you guys go ahead and chime in the comment section. Let me know how you feel on this particular video. And as usual, peace and chaos.